Spoken Layer. I haven't thought about flying for a long time. I haven't dreamed of that moment when I was alone above the clouds for a long time. I haven't dreamed of waking up in a room surrounded in blue and green grass for more years than I could dream of remembering. I haven't walked back into the past or scratched on the doors of my origins, where it all came from, since I held up that cape for the last time.
Return to Kent Town 10th Year Anniversary Edition is a revised version of Andy N's first poetry book. The book can be purchased from Amazon and it contains numerous additional material.
Spoken Label. Hi, it's Andy N from Spoken Label. Thank you today for streaming or downloading another episode of Spoken Label. Spoken Label was originally set up on beginning of 2016 and as of speaking has currently nearly 300 sessions. The full archive is available on Spoken Label bandcamp.com. Although it is available for free for stream and download if you wish, I am always grateful for any sort of kind of donation to enable me to keep the running costs of this podcast going. And enjoy. Take care. Bye bye. Spoken Label.
Hi guys, Andy N, Spoken Label, back in the house on a Wednesday evening, and I'm full of frigging cold. But hey ho, it doesn't stop Spoken Label. We carry on regardless. So if you hear loads of cuttings today in the recordings, you know why, because I'm crap, right? But I've got a lovely lady with me today, and kudos to my good friend Paul Stevens, because Paul recommended this lady to me, and the lady's name is Crystal Stewart. Now, I didn't realise Crystal, she's originally from one of my old breeding grounds, Cholton. She grew up a lot around there, and she's now Heaton Parkway. So I'm not going to give any more introduction to you, Crystal, so I'll let you start off then. For people who don't know you, and I don't know why, first of all then, would you introduce yourself to everybody? Tell them obviously a little bit about yourself and where all your creativity came from, and we'll start from there.
Okay, my name's Crystal Stewart. I was born in Australia, but I grew up a lot in Manchester. So Manchester is my stomping ground.
Cool. Well, when did you come to England then?
I was 9 months old, but I spent a lot of time in Cyprus when I was younger.
Wow.
Because I'm Cypriot. And Cypriot culture has a very strong storytelling tradition.
Oh, yeah.
Believe you me. So,
one of my best friends is from Limassol. She is.
Oh yeah,
so I'm always speaking to her. Are you on the Greek side or the Turkish side of your family?
We left the Turkish side when the invasion, the Turkish invasion, but my auntie's in Limassol, and I've got family near the northern border. Yeah, near Nicosia.
Yeah. It's a wonderful country, Cyprus. Anyone that's been there, I can recommend it straight away. So that's why. So, by the way, obviously, we're here to moving on. So you moved to Manchester at a very early age, didn't you? So down Cholton way, wasn't it?
So I moved to Manchester. I lived in London until I was 13, moved to Manchester, went to Liverpool Polytechnic, where I studied psychology, which is could be related to writing, I suppose. But and yeah, I've lived in Manchester most of my life, mainly North Manchester, but a time in Chorlton as well. Yeah.
Cool. I know you're Heaton Park based nowadays, you've been telling me before. So, but obviously, where did they talk about your creativity, really? So, and I know obviously through Paul, basically, Paul's telling me, he has told me before, I know you do look at bits of poetry, but you're also a playwright and a producer, aren't you? As well as a facilitator. So tell us about where all this came from then.
I think I must say that I always grew up with stories. My great aunt and my grandmother was always telling me stories, fairy stories, but sort of Cypriot style, where a man and a woman are trying to get together and they're trying to get married, and one says, you can't marry him, we can't marry her. So all these kind of, we shouldn't be marrying this boy, he's enchanted, and things like that, which does have relevance because I've written a play about those archetypes. But I think in terms of the turning point is my French teacher. When I was 11 years old, I wrote a play called The Fascinating Greenhouse, which was 17 pages long, which to me was like a massive tome. My French teacher typed it up and she sent it to the Royal Court in London to the Young Writers competition. And I remember going to see the winner, which was called Perfect Pets. So that was my first introduction to going to see something, you know, that I really engaged with, which was theatre written by young people. And my drama teacher said, well, we've still got the script. Why don't we put this on as a piece of shadow puppet theatre? So we edited it to about 10 minutes and we presented it to the drama class as a piece of shadow puppet theatre.
Oh, wow.
And basically that I think that moment must have changed my whole kind of thoughts about what I wanted to be. I wanted to be an air hostess, a zoologist, all sorts of different things. But I think it was the teacher. The teachers really just supported me, beyond their role, really, you know. So yeah. And then I did write a few little plays as I was growing up, you know, my teens, but I don't know where they are. And sketches. Yeah,
no, of course, get completely. I found that myself over the years because I started writing when I was 10, and I tend to operate things in a really weird way to a degree. Unlike, I know Amanda, my wife, obviously, you know, she started writing at a similar age to what both me and you started at, and she lost all of her early material. But my case was I've got everything in little half. I kept everything from about 11 or 10, the first poem, in little hardback A5 books. And the early ones are terrible, really are. But
it's good to see how it your style changes, isn't it, and your influences.
Yeah. I like looking back at stuff. That's why. So I'm very nostalgic like that, which I can see from obviously where you are as well. So now, obviously, then when you did that piece at a very early age, how did your work develop over time after that?
Then I think I love drama. I mean, that was the first thing. I love drama, and I loved creative writing. I remember my exercise books from primary school. It was always a girl called Anna, and, you know, it was all very Alice in Wonderland based, you know, so there was these kind of hyper reality. So that was in my consciousness from the time I was growing up. And then when I was 17, I wrote a poem about a river. It was like the river of life. It was something very cliche, but it was quite wise. And my mum read it and she said, this has been written like by a 25-year-old, you know, it's you're advanced beyond your years. So I had started writing poetry then as well, you know, and I kept a journal, and you know, like the teenage angst as well. So
of course.
Yeah, that was how it developed. And then when I went to Polytechnic, I studied psychology. My best friend Gail was on the drama course, so suddenly I was going to see her shows and thinking, actually, this is more interesting than my psychology.
So, no, I get you.
Yeah. So I got into theatre, really.
Cool. Now, obviously, I know, obviously, and I presume this is right on your Facebook page. At one point, you used to work over at the Arts Council, didn't you? As a theatre assistant officer. So, are you allowed to talk about that?
I am allowed. I don't work there anymore. What do you want to know?
No, I'm just curious what you did there, and that's why, because it's like, that's quite an interesting sounding job, that.
Shall I tell you how I got to the Arts Council?
Please.
I lived in London for a couple of years. I went and moved back down with my dad, and I worked in a charity. And basically, I decided I wanted to volunteer in a theatre in Camden called Theatre Technis, which is like a Greek-run theatre space, you know, for international products coming in theatre. And I did some fundraising for them. And one was an arts council, another was kind of a community fund. So I managed to get them 10 grand from the community fund. So I had a bit of experience fundraising, and then I ended up moving back to Manchester because I was seeing somebody in Manchester, and I went for the job at Northwest Arts Board. So I had some theatre experience, and also a friend of mine said, don't forget to mention rural touring in the interview, because I was working for the drama and touring administrator. So rural touring is still a big thing. It's about getting theatre out to communities that are out the way. So I think that's a bonus point. And also I mentioned things like access needs. If I was planning a meeting, you know, how I would make sure that it was accessible. And so I was offered the job. I think there was 97 applicants. So I got really focused down in what I wanted to do, and that's how I got into the Northwest Arts Board.
No, it's
Yeah.
brilliant. It's brilliant. Like I said, it's an interesting, fascinating job to get into straight away. That's for sure of it. Obviously, moving more forward then,
Yeah.
because I know Paul was obviously telling me about that you did a play, and you told me a bit before, just for lockdown as well, didn't you? So I'm intrigued to know about this play then that happened just for lockdown.
Oh yeah, I was working on a piece called Mashallah, which was it had a seed mission from Oldham Coliseum to develop a play about a cross-cultural romance, and it was actually based on my cousin who's Cypriot, and she met a Muslim Pakistani man, and it was about the cultures, how the cultures were very similar, and it was like a sort of a bit like a rom-com, but not, if you know what I mean. There's kind of a lot of poetry in it as well. There were a lot of poetic monologues. So I got a director who works at Freedom Studios, Alex Chisholm, and we managed to cast 2 Greek actors and two actor, one that could speak Urdu and also one that had the kind of experience and background of that culture to read the part. So basically I consulted with the community of Oldham and my own networks, and we created this. Basically I wrote it in about I wrote 45 minutes in about 6 weeks, and that part of that time was with actors as well. So I've done a hell of a lot of research for that. I mean, it just didn't happen overnight, and that was really well received. So basically after that I decided that the structure had to be changed a lot. So I was working a lot on changing what the order of things was, but the characters are very similar, obviously just different scenes and more non-linear than it was.
Yeah. So, no, I always believe in that sort of thing. When you're doing plays and stuff, I've worked at a couple of production companies myself over the years. Nowhere near the level what you've done. But the beginning, the way the first draft of play, when you go into the performance side, could be completely different time we get to the final side of it. So straight away, like I said, for 6 weeks, what you did there, that sounds like you did a lot of work over that 6-week period straight away.
Yeah, it was very intensive, and because I had the actors as well, it was so important that I got that material from them and that response, because some of it was devised, so it wasn't so much structure for me, it was just the content, making sure the characters were authentic and they had authentic journeys as well, because it's bilingual as well. So it was very important that the actors were from the backgrounds that I had specified, but it was a brilliant experience. It was fantastic. Yeah.
No, brilliant, that's all. And you got it into, like we both said before, just for lockdowns, so obviously, like since
it was a couple of years before. I was writing it and working on it. Yeah, but that was a good experience. But lockdown has kind of brought me back to poetry, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, like we've been a couple of times. We tried to get you on Speakeasy, the Night I Call Run, and for various reasons that hasn't happened. But it will. But so yeah. So over lockdown, have you been doing? I know you've had a few things published, haven't you? So as poetry, you've gone into poetry more than recently again, have you?
Yeah, I think poetry, because I joined Common Word in the mid-90s. So poetry was always a massive part of my writing, because I think before joining the Everyman Youth Theatre, which changed my life again, the trajectory of my career, I was writing poetry. So I had this poetic kind of alter ego almost, from very early on. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And I said before, so over lockdown then, how's it impacted on your work then? So have you found that the poetry that you've wrote over lockdown has been completely different to what you wrote before then?
Yeah, it's interesting because I wrote poetry out of desperation because obviously theatres had shut down and there were opportunities, but for me poetry was very immediate. It wasn't like, you have to develop this over 2 years, you have to pay the actors, pay the director, the dramaturg. It was something I had control of, that I could chip away at, that was relatively quick, and that I could literally just send out there and think, I'll send it into this. And so I don't know if people have heard of Submittable, which is like a sort of, it's a system where you can submit poetry across the world. And the interface is really simple. And so I just threw a few things out there. The first thing I sent actually got accepted. So that was a great thing, you know, but it was an old story. But I'd tinkered with it until I thought, right, you know, I might as well. And from then on, I just thought, just get it out there, write it, give yourself a deadline, just get it out there. And I've had quite a few things picked up or published. So one of them is actually a book as well, which I was surprised about, an anthology. Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, the one that I've been reading a lot of is the work you had published over at visualverse.org.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that process and how you got involved with this then.
I think that's just one of those things that popped up. If you've heard of Writers HQ, they publish opportunities every month, and I think Visual Verse was on there as a rolling submission program. And I like Visual Verse because I liked writing to images. I think images are really powerful. So I didn't so much need the idea, I just needed the, you know, to respond to something. And it just, some of the images were so beautiful, they just captured my imagination. And the rolling program is so fast, so you've got 15 days to respond to the image in 1 hour, and then if you get selected, you're published within that month online. So it's really good for new writers to get a response, you know, straight away.
Yeah, the material that the number of pieces published are all really, really good pieces. I really enjoyed reading each one. So straight away with that, so brilliant. Now, obviously, now we're out of lockdown. Then, are you looking at carrying on with the poetry, or do you think you'll go back to doing plays again?
I'm actually hooked on the poetry. I'm still writing. I've got an idea for a collection, but I'm not sure how to put that together. But another place I did contact over the pandemic is the Windows Project in Liverpool. If you send them your poems, 2 or 3 poems, or the first chapter of your novel, they will give you really honest feedback. And the advice I got from the reader was to read more poetry, which I have been doing, but also think about an idea for a collection of poems. So I've been looking at collections a lot, and that's been interesting for me, you know, trying to work out what a theme is in my plays and also in my poems.
Brilliant. Well, good luck with it, definitely with that one straight away. So I said, I can, well, from what I've seen your work, I can well imagine you going on to do a full poetry collection, definitely, or maybe even a novel or something. Who knows? Obviously, if you can get if you get the peace and quiet to do it, and that's a story for another day.
Yeah. I mean, I like the performance aspect of poems because obviously I've got the theatre background. And you know, that marriage between the two, I think really works. Yeah,
I think it does, because if you've come from that sort of background, when you're going onto stage, because last speakeasy we had two young actresses come up to me at the end of the night that hadn't performed or had just started writing poetry, but they asked me and Amanda about it. And then they were 19 and 22 young sisters. They were asking us basically saying, like, we've got a really good background in theatre. Is it easy to transcribe it onto poetry? And I thought to myself, if you've got the material, it's a helping start straight away. Yeah,
it is, because I haven't performed for so long. I used to perform at night and day. Era, and I was so petrified because I think you got a vote, you know, for your poem. But I'm not quite ready to read yet, but I am working on it. And I must say, I've got to give credit to Jerry Potter.
Of course.
I met him at the youth theatre. He was running the youth theatre, co-running the youth theatre, and his poetry is theatrical, very magical, and that's what I'm kind of aiming for, is to find my own style, really, you know, in terms of delivering something. So and
of course straight away with it. It's a lot of it, isn't it? The poetry sounds of your playwriting. It's finding your voice, isn't it?
Yes.
Like I said, is when you spent 18 months writing your poetry, now next stage is to find your voice, how you perform it and stuff like that. So no, good luck with definitely. So hopefully we'll get you on to speakeasy when you're ready then. Definitely.
Come over to Alton and get on the tram, won't I?
Yeah, jump on the tram. It'll be dead easy that. So yeah, great. Have you got any publications coming up at the moment that people need to be aware of, or are you keeping your options open?
No, I haven't got anything at the moment, but I don't know if I could do a little plug.
Entitled, go for it.
I co-facilitate a group, a playwriting group with Julian Hill, and we're called Manchester Playwrights Forum. And we were running at Moston Miners before the pandemic, but we're hoping to start that up soon. So if anybody is interested and they want to contact me through Facebook, I can tell them a little bit about it. And it's a really lovely session. It's very kind of relaxed, and we read work and we do little exercises. And create scenes, and we've actually had a reading at Hope Mill Theatre as well. So we are kind of hoping to get that back up. If anybody, new playwrights or playwrights that want to get back into it, after pandemic, it's a really good way in,
Brilliant, good luck with it, definitely. So tell us a bit about that, because I didn't know about that. So how did this start then?
Manchester Playwrights Forum has been going for quite a long time, since I was certainly at the Arts Council, and they work with new writers. They also broker relationships with theatre. So they had a showcase on at Contact Theatre quite a number of years ago of extracts of work, and that's the way for producers or venue managers to see work as it's being created, and usually the writer will go away and write more of it or finish it off. So it's a really good place to see your work on stage. Julian is a trained actor as well, so he's got great insights into kind of Shakespeare, which I haven't, because he was trained at RADA. So that group is continuing, but it's continuing at the Miners in Moston, which is a brilliant community arts centre. They have a lot of kind of bands on and charity events and a little cafe, and that's where we were meeting before the pandemic. So that's something, if anybody's in North Manchester or further afield, they can tap into.
Yeah, I know a few people in that towards that area actually. So
yeah.
I'll be when the podcast gets released, they will be getting referred to this, definitely. Don't worry about that. So yeah. Right. Well, anyway, that's pretty well covered everything I need to ask you today, Crystal. So we'll let you do the plug to finish off with today. So if people want to find out more about you, where do you recommend they go?
Well, I haven't got a website. I'm on Instagram, but I will have to send you what that is, because it's at Chris CRYS_Stew is my Twitter.
Yeah, brilliant.
And yeah, no website as yet, but that's something I am looking into as I develop, and decide what I want to be as well, really.
Yeah, of course. No, good luck. They definitely keep us informed. I'm always a firm believer. Spoken label. I like people coming back on a year down the line, and I find what they've been up to and stuff. So yeah, sounds good to me. So, but of course, you're going to do some pieces in the second half, but you're going to be doing this by pre-recorded, because there's a few reasons why tonight. It's just not logistics aren't right at the minute.
Logistics, that's right.
Then that's a subtle way of saying you got the kids in the next room, basically. So
yeah, somebody's going to knock on any minute now, and
See, that's logistics, right? So that's it, guys and girls. Hanging off part 2, obviously. Me and Crystal are going to carry on chatting into the night now. But thank you again for this today, Crystal. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Andy. It's been a pleasure too. Thank you.
Hang around, of course. Need to speak to off mic, but see you all soon. As Don Carlos at Impact Wrestling says, stay safe and stay home.
Spoken Label.